Hi there, and welcome back to Luke in the Library. Today is very special because I'll be telling you my top 5 favorite books of all time, and it's going to be a really fun one because I've read a lot of really cool books. But before we get started, I would just like to say a quick few honorable mentions because I want you to get to know the type of books that I like to read. Some honorable mentions include Jurassic Park, To Kill a Mockingbird, Eugene Onegin of Alexander Pushkin, some books like that. The Little Prince by Exupéry. So let's get started into the top 5. In the number 5 spot, we have a book that I read just last year. I gave it an 11 out of 10, and I thought it was just brilliant. It's the greatest work that I've read of this author, and it is Hamlet by William Shakespeare. The character Hamlet is one of my favorite characters I've ever read about. There is certainly a method to his madness, and this book is 100% one of my favorites I have ever read. It used to be number 3, but I've read a lot of books since then. I've had other thoughts about books since then. So they've moved up on my list, and this one has stayed about the same in my opinion, but it's kind of traveled down the list because of that. Number 4 on my list is absolutely deserving of the number 4 spot, and I couldn't think of a better place for it to go, and that is Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes. This book is absolutely brilliant. When I started it, I was chuckling the whole way through, and I was absolutely loving it, but then the further I got into it, the closer to the middle I got, the more annoyed I was. It felt like they were almost like journal entries, to the point where it was just like every chapter was a different story, something happening. So it was very hard for me to keep track of it, and it kind of felt like just too much was happening, different stories almost every chapter. But then about halfway through, I started realizing what this book was truly about and how brilliant it was. And in the end, it kind of reminded me of Les Mis by Victor Hugo, and the fact that it was a trek to get through. It was very, very long, just over 1,000 pages. It was a trek to get through, and sometimes it felt monotonous and very heavy reading. But in the end, this has got to be one of the funniest and best books I've ever read, and is definitely the number 4 spot on my list. Number 3 spot is a book that I'm currently in the middle of the series of. This is Dune by Frank Herbert. And this whole world is something so magical. I literally love everything about Dune. This story I think about probably more than any other story I've ever read about. This book is absolutely brilliant. I loved the character of Paul Atreides, and I thought that all the characters in this were incredible. I probably got too attached to the character of Paul Atreides. I probably related too much to the character of Paul Atreides, because in the end, what happened in the end kind of messed me up a bit, because I was too attached to these characters. And now I'm currently in the middle of Children of Dune by Frank Herbert, which is the 3rd in the series, and I'm absolutely loving it. And who knows, after I'm done with it, it could have a spot on this list of top 5, but I am definitely hoping for God Emperor of Dune book number 4, to be somewhere on this list after I'm done with that one. Number 2 is one of the books that got me excited about reading. It is Watership Down by Richard Adams. This book is amazing. I probably say that word too much, and it's not very descriptive, but this book is just over 470 pages long, and it is filled with these characters that you grow so attached to. Hazel, Fiver's my very favorite. Bigwig, Woundwort is one of my favorite villains of all time, and just all the different plot points and stuff in this book, like the religions of the rabbits and the El Harira, if I'm mispronouncing that, all these different little things that the rabbits believe are so well written out and are so well constructed that it is just crazy to read, and these characters are amazing. Definitely my number 2 spot. I thought between number 2 and number 1 for a very long time when I was creating this list, but as of late, this has by far been my number 1 spot of all time, and that book is Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. This book is the longest book I have ever read. It is just about 1,457 pages, just around that area. And this book is so annoying to read, and I love it so much. The characters are absolutely amazing. Jean Valjean especially, Javert, Cosette, like all these different characters are so important to the story, and their thoughts and like their kind of arcs throughout the story is just absolutely crazy. And something interesting about Les Mis and stuff is that it will talk about a very unimportant seeming thing for like a very long time. For example, they talk about the Battle of Waterloo, one of the Napoleonic Wars, around page 200, and they talk about that war and everything about it for another 200 pages, and it is just absolutely grueling to get through, and it's just so descriptive, and it was so annoying to read. But then about 900 pages later, he finally explains why it was even a thing, why he even spent 200 pages explaining Waterloo. So just like every little thing in this book wraps around towards the end. He explains the language of Argot, which is kind of like the slang language of like the gangs in France. Sorry, not ancient France. But like he explains that for 75 pages. They're like their gang language and stuff. And like in the end, I almost felt like I could read that language. It happened like so much. But literally, this is one of the greatest stories I've ever read. It is so descriptive, and the characters are so amazing, and the story itself is incredible, and it's got to be my favorite book of all time. Also, this book, I read this one in, let me see who translated it. I know who translated it, but I can't really pronounce their names. It is Lee Fanstock and Norman McAfee. These two did a very good job at, I think they revised the Charles Wilbur translation of it. And so that's kind of what came out of this, but it is still a really old translation. If I was to choose another translation to read, I would definitely, 100%, I would choose the Christine Donaher translation, because it seems almost like the Grossman equivalent of Don Quixote. So it's like, because it's a very modern telling of it, but it's also extremely faithful, and it gets the themes and the ideas and stuff, so the emotions from Hugo, it gets it very, very well, and it's also like modern and readable. So if I was to choose another one to read again, I'm definitely going to try to pick up a copy of the Christine Donaher translation, and I'm going to try that one out probably someday, next few years or something. But Les Miserables is 100% my favorite book of all time, and if there was any book I'd recommend, it would be any of these 5. These are absolutely incredible, but especially Les Miserables. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this content, please like the video, comment on the video, like do anything you can. Share the video, because I'm just trying to hit it big like I used to do on TikTok. I used to have 15,000 subscribers on TikTok, and then my account was taken away from me. So just please try to support my channel, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.